All right, YouTube, the sentiment too big to jail has been going around, a hashtag on Twitter and elsewhere. I happen to agree with the general sentiment. As I said earlier, it's not a surprise that Hillary Clinton was not indicted by the FBI. I never expected her to be. I gave it the slimmest of chances. Said, well, maybe there's the off chance that maybe some competing source of power says, fuck the Clintons. They're kind of on their way out as the reigning mafioso family of DC, and maybe somebody else sort of, they pay the FBI more and she ends up getting indicted. But that was always an outside chance. Do you not remember the Clinton presidency? Oh wait, anybody who's like under 25 here probably doesn't. Let me enlighten you. At the very last hours of the Clinton presidency, I mean Bubba Bill, obviously not Hillary, but they're basically inseparable. They're referred to as Billary for a reason. All of these like mafia-tied gangsters get pardoned, and there's all this talk of these weird Chinese slush funds where money has been they've been taken from American interests or Western interests. They get put in some foreign land where the United States government can't really operate fully as far as telling who owns what. And then they get siphoned back in as general funds, and they're used for dishonest dealings. This was a facet of the entire Clinton presidency. The biggest thing, the biggest blunder of all modern time for the Republican Party was fixation on Monica Lewinsky. I really mean that. The biggest blunder they made. It wasn't Bush. It wasn't invading Iraq. It was Monica Lewinsky. Why? There were so many scandals plaguing the Clinton White House. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it boiled down to people felt the economy was okay, and so they really didn't give a fuck about the fact that Clinton was getting his dick sucked or putting his cigar into somebody's asshole. They just didn't give a fuck. So when Newt Gingrich, and by the way, this is one of the main reasons that if Trump chooses Newt Gingrich as a running mate, he's deaf and dumb. He's crazy if he does it. Newt Gingrich may not be the worst possible pick, but he's near the bottom. I can think of a half a dozen people who would be better qualified for the slot and would allay people's fears that Trump was unhinged better than Newt Gingrich. Ben Carson would probably be a better choice, and Ben Carson now twice has tried to stab Donald Trump in the back to no avail. Newt Gingrich decided to fixate upon Lewinsky so much, they impeached Bubba Bill. But they couldn't remove him from office. The public sentiment was not with removing him because people said, well, things generally, they appear to be okay right now. We were in the middle of the worst crime epidemic in American history. But generally speaking, those in the working class, as far as their money went, they're like, well, yeah, but the economy's growing. The USSR is kind of, fucked up. So what do we care? We just want to party. We want to listen to Stone Temple Pilots or something like that. And so people gave him a pass. They should have fixated upon all the other scandals that plagued the Clinton White House. They chose not to do that, and it was a historic blunder. As far as the FBI's investigation goes, though, this is not the 1990s. And this is, I will say this again, the court of public opinion and the court of political opinion are two totally different arenas. The former is driven by the internet. The latter is driven by the antiquated mouth-to-mouth processes of DC, along with the dying mainstream media, the television media especially, as well as radio, and by pundits who are no longer taken seriously, even by partisan members of their own sort of circle within politics. Whether they're left or right, at this point, it barely makes any difference. Some random satirical Twitter user can garner a bigger audience than certain segments of the mainstream media. Since that has become possible, it puts a dent in the candidacies of people like the Clintons, who would have been untouchable. If Hillary had run right after Bill was gone and said, well, now it's my turn, people probably would have voted for her. She chose not to do that, of course. She wanted to go be a senator and so forth, and that didn't happen. We know that Clinton broke the law. She did. She sent and received classified and top-secret intelligence on a private server, unsecured. The FBI itself stated any sane, reasonable individual would have realized that that was wrong. And yet they didn't charge her. I am not remotely surprised, because the Clintons are quite literally too big to jail. The only thing standing in Hillary Clinton's way is public opinion. That's why I say I can breathe a sigh of relief, because I have a feeling that especially younger people who are more keyed into technology, they use the internet with greater frequency, all they're seeing right now is meme after meme, satirical post after satirical post, blog post after blog post, underground media post after underground media post. Everything outside of the MSN is directed heartily against Hillary Clinton. Almost everything. I think I saw a Salon post earlier that was critical of the decision. That's going some. When you have a far-left rag like that actually willing to publish a story by one of its editorial staff critical of a Democrat, that's when you know that that person has really fallen out of favor. They spent months, of course, trying to prop up Bernie Sanders to no avail. The thing is, the Clintons represent an outmoded viewpoint within the Democratic Party, which is really more focused on mediocre but constantly antagonistic gun control, increasing taxes 0.5% to pay for some new welfare program to ensure that minority voters in the inner city keep voting for them, and that's really all they care about. Those are the only distinctions that the Democratic Party can make between themselves and the Republican Party. They agree on going to war. They don't care about any other moral issues, any other social issues. They don't care about actual economic reform. They certainly do not disagree with the likes of John Boehner or Paul Ryan on the globalist topic, which is finally, after many, many years, it has finally entered the public lexicon at a greater level than the fringe right, the hippie fringe left, and the libertarian movement, which has finally actually emerged as a force within American politics. The times are a-changing. The Clintons, though, have not changed. What the FBI fundamentally said earlier today was not Clinton is blameless, was not Clinton did nothing wrong, but rather that Clinton is too inept to manage a BlackBerry. She is so outmoded, so outdated, and so dishonest, she cannot even operate a modern computing system of any kind without taking classified and top secret information pertaining to our national security and compromising it. They said, oh, yeah, she's totally inept. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's dumb. She's retarded. She's a screwball. Maybe not a criminal. Maybe she didn't mean to do this. You know, any reasonable individual would have known better, but obviously she didn't. But she sure as hell is inept. That's what Comey said earlier. Now, there have been cases, and people are amusingly pointing this out, where people have done rather comparable things, and they get thrown into federal prison or investigated over and over, and the FBI comes to talk to them over and over, specifically because they've potentially taken classified information, even just classified. We're not talking about top secret. We're talking about something that was marked as, fairly rudimentary classification of classified. They get a hold of one PDF document or one email that they're not supposed to have, or it's stored improperly just once, they get, at the very least, they get sacked. And yet Hillary Clinton has apparently dozens or hundreds of these emails being sent on unsecure systems when she is the Secretary of State and the former First Lady. How can a person with a PhD, who is supposedly one of the most adept individuals within world politics, looked up to by millions of people, applauded by foreign heads of state, how can this individual and the staffers who are supposedly not inept that she hires to help manage these things, and her lawyers, which I would assume have law degrees, how is this gaggle of individuals so inept as to do this? That's my question. I think that's a question that bears being asked and should be answered. Clinton obviously won't answer it. And I think that the real problem for Hillary is that many people will ask that question. They'll see that it hasn't been answered, and they'll put two and two together, and they'll realize what happened. The FBI got hoodwinked. It either got leaned on by a higher power, Obama, or it got bribed by Hillary Clinton, or I think the most likely thing, they realize what she did. They know that she broke the law. They know that she knows that she broke the law, but they can't actually find enough evidence of that because she's good at breaking the law. She's got decades of experience breaking the law. This is basically the American answer to the Sicilian mafia or something like that. When people were talking years ago about the fact that there were some connections between the Vatican and the Italian mob, and that people were kind of concerned about this, there was some odd transactions going on, some really weird business holdings, like the fact that the printing house that owns the Satanic Bible is technically sub-owned by the Vatican. People found this a little bit weird until they realized, oh yeah, well, it's tied in with organized crime. They just want to make money, just like the Vatican does. So it makes sense that they're in cahoots. The Clintons are basically the United States answer to that sort of mafia connection, with some higher power, aka anybody else that happens to be in government, especially Democrats, but even a lot of mainline Republicans. Why do you think, after all of this, if a person had any national pride at all and was in an elected office, they wouldn't back Hillary, including Democrats? Now, I'm not surprised that the partisan Democrats fell in line, nor should you be surprised. They make money off these elections. Whether they win or lose, it doesn't even matter. They hedge their bets. They've got their money everywhere. They don't even care. They're going to get kickbacks from somebody. They don't care who they're getting them from, whether it's a far left or a far right cause, or a cause with no real political affiliation that just wants a return on its investment. But what should surprise people, what should worry them, is that some of the bigwig Republicans are saying, yeah, I'm with Hillary. Why do you think they're doing that? It's because they're not going to get any return on an investment into Trump. They can't, because he's not soliciting their funds. He's ambivalent to that fact. Hillary, she'll take all comers. As long as she can make some money and plow ahead with her campaign and get into this office to give people those kickbacks, just like Obama did with the banks that had backed him during the fiscal crisis that we never should have bailed out. Of course she's going to take their money. She doesn't care if the Koch brothers are donating to her. You watch. If the Kochs were to donate $10 million to Hillary's campaign tomorrow, Salon and Being Liberal and CNN and MSNBC and these sort of left-friendly outlets that have spent the last 2 years browbeating us and talking about how the Kochs are literal boogeymen, they'd make an excuse as to why this is a good thing and say, oh, well, they must have had a change of heart, a really deep-seated change of heart. They're not in it for the money, folks. It's not because they're hedging their bets on who they think can win. No, they had an honest change of heart. Now they're good, bleeding heart liberal Democrats, just like we are. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. See, that's not the way things work. Obama, by the way, I will say this, owed the Clintons a favor. Do you remember? You remember that famous meme where Obama's kind of holding his head on stage and Bill Clinton's walking out grinning with a shit-eating grin at the crowd from when he dragged Bill Clinton out on the campaign trail because he was about even with Romney for a few months and he realized, oh shit, I better get things together here. What did he do? He called on the other most popular figure within the Democratic Party, which is Bubba Bill, to come out and stump for him, and magically Bill delivered the most soaring message, I think, since like his first term in office when he was actually president. In fact, it was better than most of the speeches he made since sort of the years of Boris Yeltsin or something like that. He delivered this truly soaring speech at the Democratic convention, glowing praise of Obama, really solidified the party. This was back when he could speak coherently. And of course, Obama shot ahead like 2 or 3 points. I covered it at the time. I put a copy of the speech that he made on my other channel because, quite frankly, it was one of the best modern political speeches. It was truly, as a cudgel against the Republican Party, you couldn't really do any better. There was nobody else. He could have called like Jimmy Carter, maybe. Jimmy Carter would have sat there and, fallen asleep, but he could have called him. No, he calls Bubba Bill. Well, who did he owe him a favor thereafter for saving his floundering presidential re-election bid? Trust me, you are naive if you think that he didn't. And he knew full well that he did. He probably was the one leaning on the FBI. I think the investigation was fair. I think Obama just kept an eye out. I think Obama and the Clintons and everybody else there knew, oh yeah, well, she's covered her tracks far too well. Hell, she might have had an FBI agent help her out from the get-go. All the emails that the FBI ever found, she let them find them. Anything that was truly damning was completely erased into utter oblivion. They probably went over it with 33 passes 33 different times just to make sure that it was. Then they took the hard drive and they dipped it in the swimming pool for a week. Then they took it and fried it in a microwave. Then they had an axe murderer hack it up into little pieces, and then they put it on the fucking space capsule and sent it into orbit alongside a satellite. That's what they would do. Anything that they actually found, she knew she was breaking the law. She knew what she was doing was unlawful. You think she actually left anything behind that would be recoverable? It was never a possibility. These are the Clintons we're talking about. They're not dumb. The FBI has essentially taken the fall here and tried to lie to the American people. I don't think Comey means to do this, but I think that's their only option, was to try to say, yeah, by the way, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, people, she's completely inept. She's lost her mind. She can't even operate a smartphone. Why are you voting for this fucking retarded bitch? That's what they wanted to say up front, but of course, Comey couldn't actually come out and say that now, could he? Now, what he really wanted to do is drag her off into a jail cell because he knows that she knows that what she did was illegal. But if they can't do that, the next best thing, oh, she's inept. And Clinton is more than happy to go along with it, and Obama's happy too. They knew that they couldn't just lie to the American people and say, oh, yeah, nothing wrong happened here, nothing classified was sent, because somebody already had the fucking emails because they know that the systems were compromised. Some of her emails have already been leaked. WikiLeaks has posted a bunch of them. They know that it's actually, when the one lie that I will say, when the FBI said, oh, well, we don't have any direct evidence that the system was compromised. We think it's probably likely, but we can't actually say for sure. Bullshit. They know full well that it was because half of those emails are already floating around on the internet in various forms. They know that they were compromised. Why do you think that they couldn't simply exonerate her of absolutely everything and not at least point out that she was inept? The best case scenario for Clinton and for the Democratic Party was to simply say, yes, she fucked up, she did send classified information, but we can't prove actual wrongdoing here, even though we technically, under U.S. law, don't even need to, so we're not going to recommend charges. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice gets off by saying, oh, we'll just do whatever the FBI recommends, but we already know what they're going to recommend. And Obama gets off by basically keeping quiet. He knew exactly what the outcome would be, probably knew weeks or months ago. And Hillary Clinton gets off because her fans don't care. If they cared that she was dishonest, they wouldn't be Hillary Clinton voters in the first place. The one silver lining here is the fact that independent voters that haven't made up their minds are going to see this shit. And if they've got any intelligence at all, which means they don't simply take the words of Rachel Maddow or somebody like that for granted, or Fox, honestly, or Bill O'Reilly or anybody like that. If they actually do even the most cursory digging on the internet, what are they seeing right now? Too big to jail. Hillary is corrupt. Hillary knew what she was doing is wrong. Here's this 10-second clip of James Comey fucking saying the same thing right before he announces that there won't be any charges. To the point where even far-left groups now are saying, well, how can we have faith in the FBI? They said she did this, and then they didn't charge her with doing that. Well, what the fuck is the point of an investigation if you're not going to charge somebody for literally fitting the description of the crime you're investigating them for? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, he raped her. He forced his cock inside of her, held her down and beat her senseless till she was like piss-stained. But he didn't know that he was raping her because he's illiterate, so we're not going to bring charges against him. That's essentially what this boils down to. I mean, it's totally ludicrous. It's totally insane in every possible sense of the word, to such a degree that, I mean, people that are like Bernie bots, they're like, what the, why? Why bother voting for Hillary? Just the final nail in the coffin of her possibility of reabsorbing a good quarter of the Democratic Party. She's just so corrupt. The system is so totally rigged. Everybody knows it. It's on display. The world is laughing at the U.S. right after the goddamn 4th of July because it's just so fucking ridiculous. But ultimately, it may not matter because her trustworthiness just went down even further, and that's really what's been holding her back. That and the fact that a third-party candidate has half of Bernie Sanders' supporters now. So I don't really worry about Hillary. Actually, after seeing the reaction, it's honestly larger than I thought and more diverse. I assumed that I'd see on Fox. Oh, Hillary's corrupt. Hillary lied. I assumed I'd see on Breitbart or The Blaze or something like that. I knew that would happen. But I didn't expect to see on CCN and MSNBC people questioning her motives. I didn't expect Salon to run so much as a half-page story dedicated to this miscarriage of justice. I didn't expect to see anything on Being Liberal about, yeah, it's a little bit odd what the FBI is saying to us. And yet I'm seeing that. I'm seeing people who I personally know are liberals saying, fuck Hillary Clinton. Literally, too big to jail. It smacks of sort of what started the Occupy movement, honestly. The idea of the bank bailouts coming, literally corporate bailouts coming from supposedly the far left. It always transfixed people. They were astounded that this could happen. I wasn't, but they were astounded that it could happen. I just said, well, yeah, he's a corporate Democrat. What do you fucking expect? He's shilling the entire American public. Now Hillary's trying to do it too. But I have every reason to believe she's not going to win. No, I don't think she will. I don't care what the polling said. At this point, because I haven't actually met any Hillary Clinton supporters, I'm not sure what the polling is suggesting. I don't know if that's even accurate at this point. Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe the polls this time really are skewed. Because I would expect to find a few people that supported her. Nobody does. Absolutely nobody. Where are you fucking Hillary fans? Are you hiding under a rock or something? I just don't understand it. That's about all. Peace out.